EstateAssist fiduciary portals are designed to allow you to grant limited access to your cases for your fiduciaries, to allow them to enter some of the transactions they might be carrying out on their own into the system for you. This is designed so that, one, you don't have to get all those receipts and check registers and things in the future and enter them after the fact. You can have them being entered contemporaneously by the client to save you time, but two, to allow you to keep better tabs on what's happening in the estates real time and get notified if there are things of concern, as we'll see here in a minute. And so we see this in a couple different places. We're going to look at it today in both estate administrations and guardianships, but you'll also have this for trust administrations. And so let's start out by taking a look at what this looks like for estate administrations. You start out by granting access to your client, and that happens through the user access icon here on your case dashboard for any specific case. And so if we go in there, of course, this is where you can adjust who in your firm has the case, so what attorney is assigned to a specific case, or what paralegals and support staff might be assigned to it. But down here at the bottom, we have a box where we can grant fiduciary access. And so step one is to set a password. You get to decide what that is. You can just put something in, you just put it in twice and set it. And then later on, you have the ability to change it if for any reason you wanted to change that or needed to change that. And then second, you're going to go ahead and select which fiduciary or fiduciaries will have access to the portal. And then you click to update it. And again, you can also update it by removing their access if for any reason you need to do that, by unchecking their box and clicking that button. And then finally, you can go ahead and get the URL or the link for it by simply clicking this, which will copy it. And then you can go paste that into an email or letter or form or whatever you'd like to use to provide that to your client. Now, one caveat, in order for this to work, you do have to have their email address entered, and that's done through your case detail screen, where it asks for information about an executor, administrator, guardian, trustee. Each time it also asks what their email address is, and you need to enter that because that does serve as their username in the portal. So we've got our access granted, a password was previously set. That will show blank after you set it. And we've copied our link. And so let's go see what that fiduciary's experience is like. All right, and so we're already on the screen here, and we have that fiduciary's information entered. And we'll go ahead and log in. We do first see a screen of open matters that fiduciary has access on. And we do that because we realize sometimes people have access in more than one case. We want them to be able to have just one simple dashboard to access each of their cases, especially guardians who serve as guardian for a number of people. And when they select the case they're working on, this is what an estate administration fiduciary will see. They see their estate account register and what's been happening, what transactions have occurred, and then they see a link to create new disbursements. And so if your executor in estate administration has the checkbook with them at home and they're transacting certain things, paying utility bills and things like that, they can easily sit down anytime and go to this. They see the same disbursement entry screen that you have as a user in the app. They create a simple description. They enter who that payment is being made to, the amount, the check number, the date, which account it's being paid out of, and then they can select what type it is. And once they save that, it's going to automatically be entered in. And actually, let's do a quick example on that. And so by doing this, we'll see what this then looks like for you. Notice that gets entered here. We now see that. But if we go back to your case and go to your disbursements, it's automatically entered in there. And so you see that it just gets added like just as though you had created the disbursement. It's automatically into your data. And of course, it automatically is going to start showing up on accountings and things like that. And it's going to go ahead and update in your account register so that you always have up-to-date information on how much money you have in each of your accounts in your estates. So that's what we see in the estate administration setting. Pretty limited access, just allowing them to make disbursements, pay bills, and you get that information added automatically. And by the way, your users, we are getting ready to add some educational information for your clients. So there will be a couple of videos and PDFs in there to give them a little more information on how to do that to make sure it's really easy for them. Now, let's look at this in the guardianship setting, which we think is more powerful and going to be more helpful to you. Again, we go to user access, and again, we grant access to the person. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we'll go to the guardianship portal. Let me just grab Bert's email address here, and we'll get him logged in. All right, and again, Bert sees all of the cases that he serves as a guardian on, and we'll go ahead and select the only one that we have there. And notice Bert gets a little bit more, okay, because guardians, obviously we have a few more moving parts for them as they're transacting financial matters and just the ongoing nature of serving as a guardian. So one, we still have expenditures. Two, we now have expenditure requests and what their status is. We also have a place for their educational courses, and we also have a place for their annual plans. And so we want to streamline collecting that information, submitting that information, and populating your court pleadings with that information. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Expenditures, when they click to add an expenditure, they get the same kind of expenditure entry screen that you get. And, one of the things that we want to do, we're aware that the Supreme Court has been working over the last few years to try to really get a handle on guardians who are spending money without permission and violating the requirements of getting prior approval and things like that. And we've sat down and thought a lot about that issue, and so we wanted to create a guardrail to help with that. And so we're going to go ahead and say that let's say that Bert decides to buy some football tickets, all right, for the Buckeyes. All right, and these are probably cheap seats. Buy those today. Now notice, as part of entering, Bert is required as guardian to determine whether or not this has been approved by the court. And the guardian gets this drop down of options. I'm not sure. This is not approved. And then there's a list of the things that are approved. And so, of course, if it's something that has been approved previously, Bert can simply select that option. And that's going to go through and just get entered into your case like anything else. But let's say that Bert is really honest and says, no, I know this is not approved, but I think they're going to win the national championship this year, so I'm buying them anyway. And then, of course, Bert can select the expenditure source, and so which account it's coming from, and also just the ability to categorize and leave any notes. So let's go ahead and save this now. And it shows up right here, and notice it's marked as not approved. But more importantly, let's go take a look at what you're seeing in this. Now, we go back to our case. first in our expenditures, this does show up. Notice that in the approval section, we've got a red mark, okay, to say that, hey, that's not something that was okay. But also, if we go back to our just dashboard when we come into the app in the morning and start our day, notice that we have this fiduciary activity section, which is keeping track of recent activity that raises a red flag or that has recently happened. And so notice unapproved expenditures, unsure expenditures in the Mary Poppins estate, or sorry, guardianship. And so if we click that, it takes us right to that. Or of course, we can go to our expenditure page. But either way, we have something triggering here that we can look and say, what have my fiduciaries been doing in cases? And we can see the first time they go and buy the Buckeye tickets or whatever it is that they might do that's not okay. It's certainly our hope that by having that drop down where they have to acknowledge whether something's been approved, it's our hope that that would in and of itself stop them from making the mistake. But if they do make the mistake, we want you to see it right away and stop them from doing anything worse. And we will be adding some other notification tools to this in the future. So we're going to have some other things to red flag it and make you aware. But right now we're going to have it in this fiduciary activity section. And then also notice that we have an expenditure request here. And so let's go back. Let's see here. We'll go ahead and get back to Mary's page. And we're also going to go back to the portal now. And let's take a look at what expenditure requests look like. So we already had one here. So the care center nursing home bill is set as pending. Let's take a look at how that gets entered. The guardian clicks this request and simply puts in the nature of the expenditure, the amount, and the frequency. All right. And so that one was entered for whatever amount and monthly frequency. And so when that happens, again, we saw that it showed up in our fiduciary notification or activity section. But also, we can go here to our expenditures, and we can go to our request section. And they don't see all of this, but you do. Of course, you can make new requests here. But let's see what our management is for expenditure requests, whether you enter them or the guardian enters them. Every new request shows up right here in this current application draft section. Okay, and let's go ahead and just make one more to really drive it home. And well, let's say that we want to go ahead and get the permission now. So all right, probably not a good frequency that a court would accept, but let's go with it. All right. By the way, notice that Bert gets a notification up here that your expenditure request was submitted. So he knows that that's occurred. And again, we go back and we'll refresh our expenditure screen. Now we have a new expenditure request there. All right, just like the previous one that had been entered. And each of those are sitting here in this application draft, and each of them are here in our fiduciary activity section. So we're aware of them, and they're sitting in a nice centralized place for this case. Now, let's go to our pleadings then, because we now have entries, whether we've made them or our guardian has made them. We now have entries here that should populate our documents for us. We go to our application to expend funds. We don't have to go type in Bert's request. We don't have to get a phone call or an email or something. Everything's already entered here for us. So we have pending applications, whether we entered them or Bert did. And so those get entered automatically. My pleading is immediately ready to print. It, of course, is personalized to the court and all the things we do. It is ready to print and submit to the court. Now, if we go back to our expenditures requests, when we file that with the court, I'm going to go ahead and click both of these App Filed. And so notice they both drop down to the Filed with Court section. All right, and a related note, Bert sees that these are still pending. All right, so we've got 2 pending. So Bert knows that there's no permission yet. When the court makes a decision on that and we get our filing back, we can easily decide or notify what is approved and what is denied. So the care center is going to get approved by the court at $3,500 monthly. And so we'll approve that. And it goes down into our approved section right there. And unfortunately, Buckeye's tickets, as much as they may be justifiable, are going to be denied in this case. And so Buckeye tickets are going down here to the denied section. And once again, if we go back to Bert's experience on the portal, those are now updated. We have the approved things and we have the denied things. And next time we go to make an expenditure, the care center's here, but of course Buckeye tickets are not. And so this is all designed to allow us to, again, have guardians entering information, guardians having some guardrails about not making mistaken expenditures, allowing data to be entered for you, and then also, of course, just tracking that back and forth with the court to try to get away from, hey, has that been approved? Has that not been approved? Just having people easily update these requests as we get the approvals and denials back from the court so that we have everything tracked, everything in here, and then a nice simple drop down in our expenditures that tells us, is this something that we are or are not allowed to pay? Okay, let's look at the rest of the Guardians portal. Education courses, of course, our guardians are required to take annual education, starting with the longer class in their first year and then the ongoing thereafter. By the way, notice we do have a link for your guardian right here in their portal to the Supreme Court's offerings for the education programs so that they can easily log in and click on this and go find a class to take. But also, we have the ability to go ahead and enter the course name, of course, the guardian's email address, which course it is, whether it's initial or ongoing, who the provider is, whether it's the state Supreme Court or some other provider, the date of completion, and then it asks, has this been submitted? Has the certificate been submitted to the court yet? And notice it instructs clients you should promptly submit a copy of the certificate to your attorney's office. And as those get submitted, let's go back to your user dashboard. We have our education screen, okay, where we see the different courses that are being taken. And notice for each one, you automatically have your 27.2 completed with all of that information from the client so that you can easily put those things in and get that, that it's already put in and you can get that file with the court. And then last but not least, your guardian can enter information for an annual plan. And we have the fields for the questions that go into the forms for annual plan filings. And so we've gone ahead and paused and entered some examples here. We're going to ask Mary to stop talking to her umbrella and understand the value of a top end. I'm not sure if that's how that's spelled. It's been a while since I saw that movie. But we're going to go ahead and submit that information. All right. And so we now have a new annual plan that's been submitted. And once again, we can go back to our case dashboard. And a couple things happened. First, let's just look at pleadings. And we come down to our annual plan pleadings. And we've got the 27.7, 27.8. And let's go ahead and notice it's all filled in with what the guardian selected or entered. And the way that the 27.7 and 27.8 are automated here, it's going to pull the most recent annual plan into the documents on the pleading screen. So you just click them right here, they're going to open and fill. And so we don't have them, linked every single one. We just pull the most recent one. Now you can see the past plans by going to your case details. Down at the bottom of this screen is where you can see and enter annual guardianship plan goals. So you as the attorney or the paralegal can enter a new plan here, but also you see the previous plans. So all the old ones will be here and start collecting so you can see them historically. But once again, our big goal was that you can easily have the most recent ones there on your pleading screen, and your guardian can be entering that information in the Guardians portal. And so that's just a quick rundown of how the fiduciary portals work, how you activate them and grant access to people, and then what it is that they can enter in order to make your jobs easier and communicate better and hopefully protect our clients from making mistakes that can put them in a bad position. So we hope this helps. We'd love to hear your feedback. If there are things that you think we can improve or add to this, we are going to be adding a number of communication tools in EstateAssist in the coming months, and those will certainly be tied to this to try to make it even more seamless to have communication between you and your clients and vice versa.